Right now, there are over 200 different habit tracking apps available to download, forming a market projected to hit $5.5 billion by 2033. The mechanic inside these tools is simple. You manage to drink your 8 glasses of water, or you finish up your morning run, and you check a little digital box on your screen to log the event. Everyday people have been doing this since 2009, when the first generation of tracking tools landed on early smartphones.
Whether you'd like to remind yourself to write in your journal or water the houseplants, there are many handy smartphone and tablet apps out there to keep you on task. The Habit Factor is available to both iPhone and Android users. This app distinguishes the difference between goals and habits. For example, say your goal is to run a marathon by the end of the summer. Then it would make sense to build good habits of running regularly to build up distance. This app can track both and easily displays the information in a graph. Both will only be successful if you can keep up the good habit of updating your progress.
Millions of users immediately started logging billions of successful daily routines. But while the public was using these exact apps to meaningfully change their lives, the academic establishment pushed back. For years, prominent behavioral scientists insisted that habit tracking simply did not work. This created a 15-year irony. While the commercial market constantly proved the efficacy of these tools, the academic world continued to argue against the concept. Between 2015 and 2017, prominent research groups, including teams from University College London, reviewed hundreds of these applications. Their conclusion was dismissive, stating that while these apps might drive repetition, they were incapable of creating real habits. Their argument relied on a rigid definition. They claimed true habits must operate entirely unconsciously, like tying your shoes while thinking about something else. Because checking an app is a deliberate act, they argued that conscious tracking actively conflicts with automatic habit formation. Think about learning to play an instrument. If a habit has to be completely unconscious to be real, how does anyone ever learn to play? A novice doesn't just sit down at the bench and unconsciously perform Mozart. You endure the conscious, awkwardly deliberate repetition of scales until that movement eventually becomes an automatic reflex. The researchers confused the steering wheel with the destination. Conscious attention is the input required to build the biological circuitry for automatic output. By 2018, the academic community shifted its stance. Unable to refute the massive behavioral repetition happening in the market, they began arguing that tracking created an unhealthy dependency. This logic suggested that a tool is bad if you come to rely on it. It's like telling someone a bathroom scale is useless for weight loss because the scale is separate from their actual diet. External scaffolding is explicitly meant to be leaned on. The irony peaked in 2020. A team of researchers decided to run a comprehensive study to determine if tracking tools actually worked. To conduct the study, they built their very own custom habit tracking application. To measure the success of their custom app, they evaluated users with a self-report index. They were using a tracking instrument to measure the efficacy of tracking. After a decade of theoretical debate, the scientific community had accidentally validated the exact concept they were attempting to refute. By 2025, the momentum shifted. Systematic reviews and major publications began declaring self-monitoring and tracking as a highly replicated and promising behavior change technique. This shift is supported by the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, or AMCC. This region regulates our capacity for persistence, conflict monitoring, and effortful control. When you experience resistance, when you don't want to go for that run, but you use a tracking tool to push through the friction anyway, you engage this region. Checking the box is a neurological scalpel that physically conditions the brain's capacity to maintain goal-directed action. Experts were trapped in isolated academic silos. Older frameworks calculated social norms and attitudes to predict an intention to act, but intention is fragile. Instead, the unified behavior model functions as a continuous feedback loop. You plan, act, record, and reassess. For 15 years, experts ignored a fundamental truth of human behavior simply because it was happening on a consumer smartphone.